Our next speaker is Hany Rashwan, who earned his PhD in the University of London and is research fellow of pre-modern Arabic poetics at the University of Birmingham, but has also been an Andrew Mellon postdoctoral fellow at the American University of Beirut. And also, as I already said, is working on the poetics of the Arabic texts. So his paper today is His Mother is Hellfire, the Islamic Exegesis of the Abus al-hāwiyah through the lens of the Qur'an and Ḥadith. Please.
Good morning, everyone. I have to begin with thanking the wonderful Marco to gather us in this beautiful carnival about the Apis. It is great pleasure to be part of this initiative, and I think it's beautiful to stimulate our minds about different cultures, different concepts, and how human being can think about the Apis or the concept of Apis. Today I will speak about the concept of al-hāwiyah, which can be translated as Apis in Islamic commentaries, and I will focus only on the Quran and Hadith. In the Islamic world, the Quran and Hadith are regarded as the two fundamental texts of the Islamic religion. The first represents God's revelations, while the second represents the sayings that have been extracted from episodes of the Prophet's daily life and were originally transmitted orally by his companions. For few Muslim scholars, the Prophet's sayings are considered the second source after the Quran that forms the basis of the Islamic law, al-Sharia. There are many factors about Quran and Hadith, but the most important fact that we should know, as a literary products, Quran and Hadith share two features in common. The first is that they are both primarily oral texts that were only later codified in writing. The second is that as literary texts, they stimulated the curiosity of Muslim literary critics because of their unparalleled literary qualities. So here, honestly, when Marco asked me to find or to work on a piece in the Islamic culture, it was really difficult for me because I don't want to begin with a preconception and find it in the other text. But I found actually, so it was kind of a stimulating journey to find it. I found a very close concept to the Apis, but it's also very different from the Greek notion or the Hebrew notion of Apis itself. So usually I found it in the word al-hāwiyah, and this word has been mentioned only one time in the whole Quran, and it was one of the names of the hellfire. So the hellfire, the fire of hell, has 7 names in the Quran. Each name reflects its characteristics. There is nothing, as we know, there is nothing in Semitic languages called synonyms with its European concept. Each word in Semitic language has a meaning that cannot be replaced by other close words. Usually, the specific meaning of each word can be explored by the precise meaning of its root. So, for example, you will find for the lion in Arabic, you find 500 names to describe the lion. Each name has a different root and has a different meaning, and you cannot replace anyone in a different context. So, for example, if you are going to praise a king, You use certain names of a line. You don't use the others. So this is a very I think it's a strong characteristic of Semitic languages in general. So here, for example, these names are collected from different Quranic verses. So we have 7 names for the hellfire. It's called Jahim, and it's come from the root Jahama, intense fire, because of its blazing fire. It's called also Jahannam, it's hellfire, because of the depths of its pit. And Jahannam here, it has a Hebrew origin, Jihanom. So it's like it means the wadi, the valley of Hinnom. But also it can also has ancient Egyptian origin. In the Book of the Dead, there is a lake of fire. It's called She'en-Am. So She'en-Am, lake of fire, in the Book of the Dead of ancient Egypt, and that's maybe the origin of the Hebrew and the Arabic as well. The fire also it called Laza, blazing fire, because of its flames. The fire also called Sa'ir, blazing flame, because of I tried here to use another synonyms, but it was difficult because it's kindled and ignited. This word is derived from the root Sa'ara, meaning to kindle. It's called also Sakar, and this is also related only to the sun fire because of the intensity of the heat. It's called also Hatama, broken piece or debris, because it breaks and crushes everything that is thrown into it. And finally, it's called al-hāwiyah, a piece or case, because the one who is thrown into it is thrown from top to bottom. So let's discover what is al-hāwiyah, or the context of this word in the Quran. As I mentioned, it was only recorded one time in the whole Quran in this verse. فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقَلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَهُوَ فِي عَيْشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا هِيَ نَارٌ حَامِيَةٌ. So basically it says, the one whose scales are heavy with good deeds will have a pleasant life. But the one whose scales are light, literally, his mother will be an abyss. And what will convey to you what that is? It's a rhetorical question. It is a raging fire. So here's a concept of scales. So we can see also different type of parallelism. So the one whose scales are heavy, and the other one, the one whose scales are light. And this is the result. Will have a pleasant life, his mother will be an abyss. And after that, he described, the Quran describes the abyss as a raging fire. So it is clear that he meant by hāwiyah, it is a raging fire. Okay, so I want to speak a little bit about also the scale and the idea of scale here, which it's very strong in the Quran as well and Islamic culture. So in the ancient Egyptian religion, the classic explosion of judgment or death, judgment at death comes in the coming forth to the daylight book in chapter spell 30 and spell 125, and the so-called weighting of the heart. If the heart weighed more than the feather of Ma'at, this is the goddess of justice, and she is a woman, it was immediately consumed by the monster Amid. So here we can see there is a monster sitting. It has 3 combination of 3 dangerous animals. After a successful result of this wedding, the deceased is being brought to the throne of Osiris, the ruler of the dead, where he receives his vital organs and senses back and is accepted among the blessed spirit of the afterlife. This iconographic scene, together with its intellectual background, partly coheres with the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim cultural traditions and their respective concepts of eschatology. So this is just a good hint about the concept itself. And I think this can be a good conference topic, like the APIS. Hopefully someone can investigate these parallels between the cultures. This فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ, his mother will be an APIS. So this is a long established conflict, especially in interpretations. So we have a huge amount of commentaries trying to understand what does it mean actually, and why it is his mother. His mother will be an APIS. Apparently, it's a metaphorical language. As I mentioned before, Qur'an and Hadith is full of metaphorical language, and it poses also a lot of questions in terms of translations. So only I collected some translations only for this small verse of أُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ, his mother will be an APIS, and we can see here different strategies. So one of them called shall be engulfed by an APIS. The other one, their home will be the APIS. Another one, a prophet and hungry one will be his mother. Irving will have a pet to mother him. He will be impressed by an APIS. Will have the bottomless pit for his home. His motherland is hāwiyah. So in linguistic, if we want to know the first meaning or the strongest meaning of the word, we have to visit the root. Okay, so let's go to the root to understand what's hāwiyah. So in Arabic is a Semitic language, and it has a very good connection with many Afro-Asiatic languages, especially also ancient Egyptian. So ancient Egyptian is not Semitic, it is a branch by itself, and it is the most, with the Akkadian, they are the most ancient languages in the Semitic, in the Afro-Asiatic field. So the word hāwiyah, its root came from, usually it's 3 letters in Semitic languages, and Arabic for special based on 3. So hawa, so H-W-A, hawa. So hawa has actually 2 main meanings in Arabic. The first one is falling down, and the second one is to feel fondness for someone or something. So this is the 2 main meanings of hawa. So I have here hawa al-shakhs aw al-shay saqata min ulu ila safar, falling down from a high point to the lowest point. And it is really interesting to find in the ancient Egyptian language a verb that is very close morphologically to this Arabic root. So it is transliterated ha. So ha, it's mean, and it's written with the 2 feet, a picture at the end to say that it's meaning going down. And it means comes down or go down, descend, fall, befall, of age, or drape or drop. So this meaning of falling or falling down or descended rapidly from a higher to lower level is attached also to strong words about death. So it can mean perish, die, or get lost. And if used with a mother as well, it can mean that the mother lost her child. The second meaning that Arabic developed, it's mean to feel love or fondness for someone or something. And we have a huge amount, like we speak about 40 Quranic verses using this meaning to mean desires. So we have here فَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا الْهَوَى أَن تَعْدِلُوا. Don't follow your desires lest you swear. So most of these Quranic verses highlight that evil is located in the deepest side of the human nature and desires. The expression, so here we covered al-hāwiyah in the Quran. The expression al-hāwiyah also occurs in Ḥadith that describes how the soul of disbelievers suffer when received in the heaven in comparison with the good believer. So here, this is the Arabic text, and this is the English translation, and I hope you can read it. But it's basically when the believer is dying, the angels of mercy come to him with white silk and say, "Come out content, and with the pleasure of Allah upon you, to the mercy of Allah, fragrance and the Lord who is not angry." So it comes out like the best fragrance of musk. Musk is a type of plant that has a very beautiful smell. They pass him from one to another until they bring him to the gate of heaven, where they say, "How good is this fragrance that has come to you from the earth?" Then the souls of the believers come to him, and they rejoice more over him than any one of you rejoice when his absent loved ones come to him. They ask him, "What happened to so-and-so? What happened to so-and-so?" They say, "Let him be, for he was in the hardship of the world." When he says, "Did he not come here?" They say, "No, he was taken to his mother at peace." Come out discontent, subject of divine wrath, to the punishment of Allah, the mighty and supreme. So it comes out like the fullest stench of a corpse. They bring him to the gates of the earth, where they say, "How full is this stench?" Then they bring him to the souls of the disbelievers. It is worth to mention as well that some of the scholars, mufassirin, Quran commentators, say that the 7 names previously mentioned are the names for the various levels and degrees of hellfire. Some of these commentators divided sinners into various categories on the basis of these levels. We actually have a long hadith in which the Prophet is in dialogue with the angel Gabriel, who describes each gate of this hellfire. Al-hāwiyah is the last one that accommodates the hypocrites, the people of Moses, Pharaoh, the people who didn't believe in Jesus. I hope that I could give you a simple and clear presentation about the concept of a peace in both Quran and Hadith. And I really like a quotation that Marco has used yesterday, and I think it reflects very strongly about the peace itself and how the human nature absorbed the concept itself. Every human being is an apiece. One gets dizzy when looking down. And this is George Pushner. And I think the topic itself is very rich, and I didn't want to complicate it with a lot of commentaries about the terms itself. But I think it worth to explore also how the term hāwiyah has been used outside of the religious sphere into poetry and literary prose. And thank you so much, and I hope it was clear and simple for you to absorb, considering the other. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rashwan. And now it was indeed extremely interesting, and we have now time for discussion and questions. Please.
Yeah, thank you very much, dear Hani. That was indeed also very clear and very interesting. One short remark. So in your last nice quotation by Georg Büchner, it's one gets dizzy when one is looking down into the human being, yeah? Not just looking, so that's a different dimension still. So I think that's important in the translation to keep it. And then I was wondering, the way you presented al-hāwiyah now, I think there is not really an ambivalence between positive and negative sides. That comes across as being purely negative. Or is there also something which might have a dimension of creation or anything of that sort? I'm not even sure, and maybe I have to include Urmas in that, whether this ambivalence that I perceived so far is really there in Hebrew, but I think there is a little bit of it, at least in Hebrew, where now here I don't see that at all. Yeah, could you elaborate on that, please, Hani, and then maybe also Urmas quickly.
Yeah, thank you, Marco. I think you are right. It was kind of a journey of discovery for me as well. I tried to find what's a hāwiyah in the Islamic beliefs, but I found it's more scary. So if I took you in details about the doors of Jahannam or the hellfire, and each door is specifying certain type of sinners and things like that. So it is certainly a negative thing, and has nothing positive at all in relation to the hellfire. I think also I'm not sure of that, but there is a Hebrew verb. It's called hawa, and it means damage, but the damage here also is related to falling down from a high point to a lowest point, and it has no ground. And I think I really like it Oma's lecture so much as well. And I can relate it with eternal water in ancient Egypt. It's called Noon. So it's a chaotic water. It is very clear that there is a very good resemblance between the ancient Egyptian creation myths and the Hebraical traditions in terms of this chaotic water, and after that the creation has risen from it, and the first or the father of the gods after that created the other gods and created the whole universe as we know it now, as this is their words. But it is negative and scary in the context of hellfire. Yeah.
And the element of the mother is not at all something carrying. It's just, that's a place where you are. That's a womb where you have to perish in. It's nothing. There's no carrying or creating element of the mother. The mother is just another metaphor here for, how you have shown how it was translated. It was only negative.
Yeah, I think it struck my mind actually that he used the mother. So the mother in the Islamic culture is the most is the kindest creature that even we should kiss their feet. It's like it's written that the paradise is under the feet of the mother in the Qur'an clearly. So when he used here that your mother is hellfire, your mother is Jahannam or hāwiyah, I think it's you cannot separate a mother from a child. So this is the idea established in the Islamic mentality. So when you have a mother and a sinner and hellfire replacing the mother, so it's saying a very close connection between both of them. And I think it's also related to the parallelism in the verses itself. So when you speak about the scale, it's going, if it is heavy, that's mean you have a lot of wrong deeds and you will go to the hellfire. And also hāwiyah, you are going down. So I think being heavy and going down as well is both related. and I think the mother giving birth, and this painful as well. And after that, the result is hellfire. So it's kind of it's a beautiful metaphor, and that's why the commentators, they had a huge amount of space. They have a big space to speculate about why use the mother, and some people even refuse to say it is a mother. It may be ummah, so it's mean a nation or a road or a tariqa, a way of thinking. But it is ummu. It's his mother, literally.
Yeah. Or it would be really, in that case, a convincing metaphor for the worst situation imaginable. Yeah, if your mother is hellfire, and but just the last image that you just used of the scales going down. Actually, I think was that an error, because here, if the scales are light, then your mother is hellfire. So you need some weight. Yeah, so when you are weight, you have to have some weight, so your scales have to go down enough so that you're happy. If you are too light, then it's negative. Then you will be in hellfire, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so even in the ancient Egypt as well, so they put the heart here, and they put the feather of justice, of Ma'at, on the other one. So if the heart is heavier than the feather, that means he has a lot of wrong deeds. It's going down. And the feather, and then this the monster, will eat the soul. So the soul of human here is depicted in a bird with a human face. So this is the soul in ancient Egyptian. It's a bird with a human face of the deceased. So once his heart become heavy, heavier than the feather, he will go to the monster, to the hellfire. It's the same idea in the Quran. If your heart is heavier because of the bad deeds, it's you are going to the hellfire.
Thank you. I think you wanted Urmas to comment on your question. Do you want?
Perhaps only a brief comment. Yes, it's right that there is this ambivalence in the Hebrew Bible, starting with water as being both positive and negative, and ending up in this creation theology where abyss, the negative side, has to be very awful or even more awful because God has to dominate it, and then God can be described as ever more powerful. So that's the... And then I confirm in Hebrew there is the verb root hava used in the Bible, but quite a rare word, so it's not so much a conceptual word.
Should I go? Okay. Thank you very much, Hany, for that paper. I thought, and Uma for the comment. I thought the papers worked very well together, and I thought it was very interesting that you'd linked together really home, heart, mother, hell. This really seems to be very interesting, and you came to the conclusion with Marco and I think with Uma that this is scary. I would say nothing's scary. There are only people that are scared by things. Who's scared? What's very interesting about Marco, and I really appreciate this makes a big change for me, is that it's a very masculine conference. We're mostly men talking about this, and we're mostly men talking about mother and hellfire. Now for that is scary. Think in the German tradition, what do we have? In Faust, I think it's Faust 2, we have Die Mutter, and this is hell. This is clearly inspired by Shakespeare, but Shakespeare is clearly inspired by the Scottish mythology. And the Scottish, they're not Scottish, they're Irish Celts. And in this, there's a kind of matriarchy. That matriarchal power of spiritual origins, beginnings, this is all scary because this is ultimately alterity, total alterity for us. This is a threat to us, to our power, to our struggle. And I thought the first paper really illustrated that, the way that we've got all this maternal, this power, this spirituality, and little by little, we're circumscribing it, limiting it, and putting it into no longer spiritual deities, but demons, pandemonia. And we're putting Die Mutter on the side of pandemonia. Chaos will be on pandemonia, and that's even a Greek way of seeing it, a Hebrew way of seeing it. The first paper really highlighted pre-Hebrewic or oral text, before this patriarchal sort of order comes into play, in this very Greek sense of order, then this Roman sense of order, then this Christian sense of order. And I think the two papers really highlight ways that we can get out of that, and we can respond to this differently. But this is something that is scary for who? For us men. I think that's the simple point I wanted to make there.
Can I answer briefly? Thank you so much, James. It's sometimes linguistic can also inform us about gender issues. So, for example, in ancient Egypt and in Arabic, the word for fire is feminine, because in Semitic languages you can differentiate between the feminine and the masculine. There is no neutral, like German language, for example. So you will find also the goddess of war in ancient Egypt is a feminine, Sekhmet, and she has a lion head and a female body, a beautiful female body. And the goddess of justice is a female. So this is also restoring the balance, because the fire itself as a feminine word, it's also kind of scary. But I totally agree about the gender questions and how, yeah, it should be investigated more. How, why this context, his mother become a source of attacking our security, our feeling of what we should say it like, it's like if anything happened to your mother, you are not comfortable anymore. So imagine if your mother is a hellfire. So it's and you become a son of hellfire. So you can actually develop a lot of metaphorical connotations based on this image by itself. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, I think this fire is a very interesting example, but the first paper made the same comment on water, that these are negative and positive, and that duplicity will be constantly moving. Too much water, not enough water. How do we control water? Fire, we need fire. Fire is the hearth. It's the fireplace. And these are words that come for home. So you really linked in. Heart is on the side of women. Always. Yeah. Home is homemakers and home breakers. Yes, the good and the bad, they're always women, you know. But how we, instead of saying it is, we have to say we men or we women or we humans perceive this, and that if we get rid of that, we start getting into this objectification, and there we can't handle the duality, the necessary duality, which is part of it. I thought the both papers really, they highlighted that very, very clearly. You can't separate water from groundwater, but it's deep sea water as well. Fire is good, fire is bad, mother's good, mother's bad. Of course, and we have difficulty handling that, you know. But thank you very much for the both papers.
Thank you, James. Yeah.
Was there another question online?
Was there another question online?
No. Oh, okay. Is it too late for me to ask a question? I actually wanted to ask you whether there are also other words than al-hāwiyah which are translated by Abyss.
Yeah, I like Umas. When I did Google about the translation and to check also the Quran translation, I found some translators, they translate any mention of deep as a piece. And I think it is, I cannot say it's a mistake, but when you visit the original Arabic and you go to the root, you find a different meaning at all. So that's why secondary translations cannot be faithful for Semitic languages. So I don't believe in translation of Hebrew Bible or Quran can do fair to their literary nature. For me, it's very clear if I want to trace the concept of a piece, I have to go to Hawa, which means, yeah, so this is the only concept. But the other one is deep. It's in Arabic, you have like 15 adjective about the meaning of deep, and each one has a different depth according to the context. And the same in Hebrew and Akkadian, all Semitic languages. There is nothing called synonyms. It's a mess created by European dictionaries, but it has nothing to do with a contextual meaning.
Thank you. This was most interesting explanation. But please, Marco.
Yes, thank you very much. I just, before we get a cup of tea or coffee, one little reaction to what James mentioned. It's a very interesting point, actually. In Faust 2, we have die Mütter, so the mothers. And that is somehow scary. It's a big challenge to face them, and nobody really manages it. And Faust finally is the only human being who manages to face the mothers, to go into this special realm of the mothers. And that is actually something like the great void. There you don't see anything. It's just pure whiteness, nothingness. Yeah. So it's not exactly as James presented it, but it is a very important and interesting image for this, because we have this element of nothingness for the abyss. But it's not the same thing. But we can make this connection of the motherly, because out of this nothingness, everything is created. So the mothers in the Faust are indeed the most original source of everything. Yeah, that's the basis for everything. That's more important than the gods and everything. That is something like fate and everything combined. It's a very interesting concept in the Faust. Okay, just a little remark, and then thank you very much again. And I think we should get a cookie and some refreshment.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll meet again in 20 minutes. Yeah, thanks.